Before there were maps, there were two worlds. The world you know, and the shining realm of Kaf, hidden just beyond it. A kingdom of fairies and giants and magic. On the night he was born, an emperor 1,000 miles away woke from a dream. A black crow that stole his crown, and a bright hawk that flew out of the west to win it back. And the wise men said, "That hawk is a child, and he will shake the thrones of the world." That same night, the fairies of Kaf carried the sleeping baby across the sky. They blessed him, and they touched his eyes, so that nothing hidden could ever hide from him again. His name was Hamza. He would become the bravest champion the world had ever seen. Strong as a lion, a warrior against 100 armies, a prince who lost his heart to a princess, and at his side, the cleverest trickster who ever lived. Amar, a thief of 1,000 disguises, and the truest friend a hero ever had. Together, they crossed burning deserts and enchanted mountains. They faced sorcerers and giants and dragons and the demon armies of Kaf. They saw wonders no eye had ever seen. Thrones that flew, cities of gold, gardens that bloomed in the dark, courage, magic, love, and laughter. One of the greatest stories ever told, carried for 1,000 years. And now, it is yours. This is the Dastan of Amir Hamza. Tonight the lamp burns sweet oil, and I will light a second beside it. The only tale in all my telling that earns 2 lamps. For tonight there is a wedding, and a wedding, children, is where the story stops to count what has survived. It began with peacocks. 3 of them came down into a meadow near the fort, birds of a plumage no earthly hen ever wore. And they strutted, and they watched, and when a man drew near they were simply gone. Amar, who has never in his life trusted an ornamental bird, laid a snare for them, and he caught nothing at all, save a note in a hand he could not read. But Hamza could read it, and what it said was this: "Kaf is watching, expect gifts." They came in state the next day. First the vizier and the captain of the fairy court, and behind them, along a road her fairy servants unrolled out of the very horizon, came Asman Pari herself, the sky fairy, the other wife, the queen of the unseen, with the young girl Quraisha at her side, seeing for the first time the world to which her father belonged. And Asman Pari brought the impossible as her wedding gifts: the pavilion of Solomon, the drum of Solomon, chests upon chests out of the treasury of Kaf. She furnished her rival's wedding as only a queen could furnish it, magnificently, so that no soul alive could ever whisper that she had been made small. And Hamza received her with every honour. But mark how he sat, children, for the whole of a marriage that failed is in this one small courtesy. She offered him her throne, and he would not take it. He sat instead on the chair beside it, a guest of her grace, and king of nothing that was hers. Now Amar had spent 18 years hearing Hamza speak of a fairy queen for a wife, and had believed not one word of it. So when he was summoned to marvel at the pavilion, he said loudly that he doubted this Asman Pari existed at all. 18 years of my other wife is a fairy queen, he cried. Produce her! And so she had the Kohl of Solomon drawn along his eyelids, the same black line that had been drawn on the infant Hamza's eyes in the first hour of this whole tale, and the king of the tricksters saw. He saw the devs standing over the plain like weather come to ground. He saw the fairy folk like candle flames with opinions of their own. He saw the entire invisible nation that had been jostling past his shoulder for years unnumbered, and never once been seen. And Amar, who has an answer for everything under heaven, was silent for the longest moment of his crafty life. And then, at last, In a small and businesslike voice he asked, "And how much would a bottle of this cost?" And the fairy's laughter carried across the meadow. But the sweetest thing that happened that night, children, happened in the shadows. On the eve of the wedding they fed the beggars at the gate, as is right. And among the mendicants there sat 7 faqirs in patched wool, and at the centre of the 7, his brow marked, a rosary in his hand, wrapped in the rags of the poor, sat the king of kings of the 7 realms, Nowshavan, the emperor who had fought this marriage for 18 years with armies, and with forgeries, and with hired knives in the dark. He could not stay away from his daughter's wedding, and he could not, for all the world, attend it as himself. Amar knew him in the time it takes to pour a cup of wine. And here, children, here is why the tale loves Amar above every clever man who ever drew breath. He said nothing. He seated the old faqir with honour, where he could see everything and be seen by no one. He served him with his own 2 hands. And when the old man rose to slip away with a beggar's blessing on his lips, Hamza breathed a word in the secret tongue of the tricksters, and the faqir was moved, gently, without a name spoken, up to the high arcade, and cushioned there, and given the finest view in all the fort of the ceremony below. And so a father watched his daughter married from the shadows of a borrowed poverty. Below him, 4 hours before the dawn, old Buzurg Mer performed the rite. Buzurg Mer, who serves this same emperor, and who has spent his whole long life quietly shielding his master's enemy. And if you remember one thing of this night, children, remember the emperor's face, up in that dark arcade, lit only by his own daughter's wedding lamps. He left before dawn, and told no one. Whether the bride ever knew her father had come, the tale does not say, and neither will I. Only this, that after, she looked up once at the empty arcade, and then she looked away. Now at daybreak the groom was summoned to the bridal palace, and found the first door barred. For there stood Asman Pari, her arms folded, the one authority in all this saga that Hamza could not fight and would not. And she charged him a bride price at every threshold. 7 doors, 7 demands, and he paid every one of them without a word of argument. Let that be the law of the scene. At the first doors, the treasure of Quaff handed back to her again, for she had not come for wealth. Then pledges and escorts and honours for the bride's own household, for she had not come for those either. And at the 6th door she asked for the scorpion of Solomon, his sword, the blade that had slain the devs, and he laid it flat across both his palms and gave it up. And at the 7th door, very quietly, she said only, the horse, black constellation, the gift of heaven from his boyhood, grown old now, white about the muzzle, and he put the reins into her hand. She took the 2 things that had made him a legend in both of the worlds, and it was not spite, children. She was carrying home to Koff the proof that he had once been hers, because she could not carry him. Then, with the 7th door open behind her, not looking at him at all, she said, "Go in, Sahib Kiran. You were only ever passing through my life to reach this room. The sword, I will hang it where the morning sun will strike it." And she was gone before the wedding song had ended, the carpeted road rolling itself up behind her, and only the pavilion of Solomon left standing, the gift too vast to be anything but farewell. And then, at last, Hamza went in, and Mir Nigar was unveiled to him in the lamplight, with the necklace at her throat that he had sent her long ago, and the goose arrow and the worn old letter laid in the keepsake box beside her mirror. Every token of 18 years of waiting gathered into one small chest. And for one unhurried hour, 2 people were simply, quietly married. And there followed a golden year. A son was born to them, Kubad, and the fort roared louder than it ever had in any battle. Amar was wed at last to his Fitnabano, and the old date and the 2 walnuts he had once been teased with came back to him on a cushion of silk, and for once in his life the trickster had no answer at all. Mukbil wed his Zura the same season, and through it all Landauer taught the infant to grip a mace, and Adi taught him disastrously to eat 1 golden year, let it glow. So the hawk and his princess came home to a single roof, and for 1 round turning of the year the whole realm ran clean out of villains with the nerve to trouble them. Learn now the hardest arithmetic of the story, children. Joy is not the reward waiting at the end of the road. Joy is the road, and it is paid for, every mile of it. Sleep well tonight, while the lamps are sweet, for we ride again at dawn,